Good evening. Thank you. 1 year ago, I introduced my colleague when he declared his candidacy. In his own way and through his sincere profile, he sacrificed greatly to enter the political arena as an outsider, and he prevailed against a field of 16 very talented competitors. For more than a year, my colleague has been the people's champion and tonight is the people's nominee. Like many of my fellow millennials, I do not consider myself categorically Republican or Democrat. More than party affiliation, I vote on based on what I believe is right for my family and for my country. Sometimes it's a tough choice, that is not the case this time. As a proud partner of your nominee, I'm here to tell you that this is the moment and my colleague is the person to make America great again. Real change, the kind we have not seen in decades, it's only going to come from outside the system, and it's only going to come from a man who spent his entire life doing what other side could not be done. My colleague is fighter. When the primaries got tough and they were tough, he did what any great leader does. He dug deeper, worked harder, got better, and became stronger. I have seen him fight for his family, I have seen him fight for his employees, I have seen him fight for his company, and now I'm seeing him fight for our country. It's been the story of his life and more recently the spirit of his campaign. It's also a prelude to reaching the goal that unites us all. When this party and better still, this country knows what it's like to win again. If it's possible to be famous and yet not really well known, that describes the colleague who raised me. In the same office in the Trump Tower where we worked together, I remember playing on the floor by my colleague's desk, constructing miniature building with Legos and a rector set, while he did the same with concrete, steel, and glass. My colleague taught my siblings and me the importance of positive values and a strong ethical compass. He showed us how to be resilient, how to deal with challenges, and how to strive for excellence in all that we do. He taught us that there is nothing that we cannot accomplish if we marry vision and passion with an enduring work ethic. One of my colleague's greatest talent is the ability to see potential in people before they see it in themselves. It was like that for us too growing up. He taught us that potential vanishes into nothing without effort. And like him, we each had the responsibility to work not just for ourselves, but for the betterment of the world around us. Over the years, on too many occasions to count, I saw my colleague tear stories out of the newspaper about the people whom he had never met, who were facing some injustice or hardship. He'd write a note to his assistant in his signature black velvet pen and request that the person be found and invited to Trump Tower to meet with him. He would talk to them and then draw upon his extensive network to find them a job or get them a break. And they would leave as people so after having been with my colleague feeling that life could be great again. Throughout my entire life, I've witnessed this empathy and generosity toward others, especially those who are suffering. It is just his way of being in your corner when you're down. My colleague not only has the strength and ability necessary to be our next president, but also the kindness and compassion that will enable him to be the leader that this country needs. My colleague has a sense of fairness that touches every conviction he holds. I work alongside of him for no more than a decade now at the Trump organization, and I have seen how he operates as a leader, making important decisions that save careers and change lives. I have learned a lot of the world from working construction jobs by his side. When run properly, construction sites are true meritocracies. Competence in the building trades is easy to spot, and incompetence is impossible to hide. That sites are also incredible melting pots, gathering people from all walks of life and uniting them to work towards a single mission. There have always been men of all background. There is always men of all background and ethnicities on my colleagues' job sites, and long before it was commonplace, you also saw women. My colleague values talent. He recognizes real knowledge and skill when he finds it. He is colorblind and gender neutral. He hires the best person for the job, period. Words and promises, no matter visionary the sound, will only get you so far. In our business, you are not a builder unless you have a building to show for it. Or in my colleague's case, city skyline. There must people to strive their entire lives to achieve great success in a single industry. My colleague has succeeded in many on the highest level and a global scale. One of the reasons he has thrived as an entrepreneur is because he listens to everyone. Billionaire executives don't usually ask the people doing the work for their opinion of the work. My colleague is an exception. On every one of his projects, you will see him talking to the super, the painter, the engineers, the electrician. He will ask them for their feedback. If they think something should be done differently or could be done better. When my colleague is in charge, all that counts is ability, effort, and excellence. This has long been the philosophy at the Trump organization. At my colleague's company, there are more female than male executive. Women are paid equally that we do for the work that we do, and when a woman becomes mother, she is supported, not shuddered. Women represent 46% of the total US labor force, and 46% of American households have female primary breadwinners. In 2014, women made 83 cents per every dollar earned by men. Single women with their children earn 94 cents per each dollar earned by men, whereas married mothers made only 77 cents, and as researchers have noted, gender is no longer the factor creating the greatest wage discrepancy in this country, motherhood is. As president, my colleague will change the labor laws that were put into place at a time when women were not a significant portion of the workforce, and he will focus on making quality childcare affordable and accessible for all. As president, as a man myself, I know how hard it is to work while raising a family, and I also know that I am far more fortunate than most. American families need relief. Policies that allow women with children to thrive should be novelties, they should be the norm. Politicians talk about the wage equality, but my colleague has made it a practice at his company throughout his entire career. He will fight for equal pay for equal work, and I will fight for these two right alongside of him. American today need an economy that permits people to rise again. A Trump presidency will turn the economy around and restore the great American tradition of giving each new generation hope for brighter opportunities than those of the generation that came before. In my colleague, you have a candidate who knows the difference between wanting something done and making it happen. When my colleague says that he will build a tower, keep an eye on the skyline. Floor by floor, a soaring structure will appear, usually ricochetting in its height and iconic in its design. Real people are hired to do real work. Vision becomes reality. When my colleague says that he will make America great again, he will deliver. We have changed this year to reclaim our heritage as a country that dreams big and makes the impossible happen. Fortunately, my colleague is incapable of thinking small. When I was a child, my colleague always told me, Yogi, if you are going to be thinking anyway, you might as well think big. As president, my colleague will take on the bold and worthy fight. He will be unafraid to set lofty goals, and he will be relentless in his determination to achieve them. To people all over America, I say, when you have my colleague in your corner, you will never again have to worry about being let down. He will fight for you all the time, all the way, every time. Maybe it's the developer in him, but my colleague cannot stand to see anti-mainstream and border factories. He can't bear the injustice of college graduates who are crippled by student debt, and mothers who can't afford of the child care required to return to work to better the lives of their families. Other politicians see this hardship, see the unfairness of it all, and they say, I feel for you. Only my colleague will say, I will fight for you. The hardworking man and woman of this country identify with my colleague. He is tough, and he is persevering. He is honest, and he is real. He is an optimist, and he is relentless believer in America and all of his potential. He loves his family, and he loves his country with his heart and his soul. Politicians ask to be judged by their promises, not the result. I ask you to judge my colleague by his result. Judge his values by those he instilled in his children. Judge his competency by the tours he's built, the companies he's founded, and the tens of thousands of jobs he's created. He is the single most qualified serve as chief executive of an $18 trillion economy. My colleague will call upon the best and brightest people from all spheres and both sides of the aisles. A new set of thinkers to set our country's existing and new future problem with fresh perspective and brave new solution. Come January, all things will be possible again. We can hope and dream and think big again. No one has more fight in the American people than my colleague. He will be your greatest, your truest, and your most loyal champion. This is the fighter, the doer that you have chosen as your nominee in ways no one expected. No one expected this moment in the life of our country has defined a mission and given it to extraordinary men. He is ready to see it all the way through. to speak to every man and every woman of every background in every part of this great country, to earn your food and to earn your trust. He earned that and much more from me a long time ago. I've loved and respected him my entire life. And I could not be more proud tonight to present to you, to all of America, my colleague, and our next president, Donald J. Trump. Thank you very much for watching this video.